few days ago, the governor of Cross River State, Ben Ayade, officially joined the presidential race after meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa. Governor Ayade joins us now for more on his presidential ambition and the build-up to the 2023 general elections. Thank you so much, Mr. Governor, for joining us on the news tonight. I think it's a good, great. I think a good place to start would be to ask you if you want to be president of Nigeria or not. And I ask you because that day at the presidential villa, you told State House correspondents that should former President Goodluck Jonathan become the flag bearer of your party, you will step down what you say is your ambition. So do you really want to become president of Nigeria?
If President Jonathan becomes the flag bearer of our party, what else will I do? Fight him? Of course I will support him. I think the question is taken completely out of context. A question was asked that we understand that President Jonathan is likely to join APC and would declare as a presidential candidate and might be the sole candidate of the party. And I say, if that is the position of the party, I'm a conformist. I would support him if that is the position of the party. How does that relate with whether I want to run or I don't want to run? They are all related. The question was specific and crystal clear. If the party decides that he's the sole candidate to run for the presidency, what will I do? I'm a party faithful and loyalist. And that's essentially what I represent, and that's what I said. Today, the president has given me a note and asked me to run, and I will because he has given the clearance for which he has done to many others. So I'm definitely running, and firmly and squarely.
Okay, but it almost seems that you are a reluctant hero. I mean, when you say that the president actually asked you to run, that you had absolutely no intention to run in the first place. And what exactly did the president tell you that made you decide to run?
Again, you choose to put words in my mouth. I did say I have no absolute intention to run. Let me tell you about power and the sociology of power. You don't go before a man who sits as a president of a country, the leader of your party, to ask to take his seat. You only show availability, just in case you're an option. If we had to customize democracy to reflect African-specific affinities, it's absolutely scandalous and unacceptable to walk before somebody you have so much respect for to seek his office. Within the confines of political democracy, it's expected that you must follow the process with civilized conduct. So I only went before Mr. President to seek to support him in the process of choosing his successor. If I become an acceptable option for consideration, then allow me to go and try. And that's why we are all in the race. Remember, this is primaries. This is party ticket we are seeking. This is not the election proper. And the party ticket, as you can see what happened in our convention, it comes through a consensus process. And the consensus building requires that everybody who is interested should first come before the family, which is the political leadership of our structure. And that's what I have done. But the choice of words, which shows civilized diplomacy, is mistaken in your own palace to me reluctance. It's not reluctance, it's just maturity, it's just diplomacy.
You said you want to continue where President Muhammadu Buhari stops. And the discuss in some quarters is that we should have a departure from the present, for instance, the security or even the economy, the level of unemployment. So when you say you want to continue, what exactly are you continuing on? And do you think that this would somewhat work against you in a very crowded race, especially when you have a strong opposition as the People's Democratic Party, your former party? Why do you want to become president?
Well, the word continue as used does not enjoy the application that I suggest. There's just no way you will want to come in the same party, the same structure, and want to deviate completely and orgasmically from what is on the ground. You can only improve on what is on the ground. And so, what will I do differently in relevance to the questions you've asked in terms of economy, unemployment, and security? Let me tell you that the security challenge Nigeria's got is of international dimension. You check across the entire globe, where, particularly in Africa, where you have huge natural resources, it becomes a source of pain. Today, Tanzania, what is Mafuguli today? He's no more. Mysterious death. What is the true secret? Occasioned by his deliberate refusal to cede copper fields, the copper mines, to some specific global interest. Where is Congo in crisis? Congo is in crisis by the huge deposit of coltan, columbite tantalite, that they have in extreme abundance. So come to Nigeria, we have deposit of tantalite, we have deposit of platinum, gold, uranium. The list is endless, including metallurgical bauxite. It's essentially a threat globally because that source of resource, properly managed with a huge demography that's in our favor, 60% of our population under the age of 35, intelligent people, massive and aggressive workforce. Put that together with the natural resource, that's a threat to some international communities. So there's no way that they will not take a deliberate step to unsettle Africa. That's basically what is playing through here. Imagine the Afghanistan theory and the Afghanistanism, the collapse of Afghanistan that has made itself available to the ISWAP. ISWAP is led by Abu Banawi, who is led now. Given the collapse of ISWAP, given the collapse of Afghanistan, having been taken over completely and ISWAP is reigning, with access to a lot of weapons from Pakistan, occasioned by the massive sales of illicit drugs, it means that there's massive cache of weapons available for them to encourage and achieve their philosophical trust, which is their spiritual vortex that says that the West Africa belongs to that specific Islamic sect, where they sit and believe that Nigerian Christians and Muslims alike are infidels. And so they need to wipe it and take it as a spiritual gift from God that West Africa province belongs to them. While this is happening, Boko Haram, who has its own linkage to Al-Qaeda, also believes that they need to take occupation. And there's a clash between these two groups. And their focus is the extermination of West Africa. So if you look at this detail properly, you will see that President Buhari is sitting on an international pressure coming from the international community and coming from terrorist groups. The collapse of Boko Haram as a result of their response to the fear of ISWAP made them to retreat, return to Nigeria and offer themselves as they have surrendered. So coming in unprepared, without an alternative source of livelihood, banditry sets in naturally. And so with banditry, with terrorism, that's too much for the country to bear. And with the international pressure on access and resource, searching for our natural resources and our minerals, that's absolute cataclysm waiting to occur. And so sitting as president of this country without a full understanding of the international dimension, you will be dealing with it as thinking it's a local Fulani thing. It's not Fulani. It is an external aggression on this country. And if you check all over the world, this is what happens particularly in West Africa. So coming to the solution, we can only approach this with also an international connectivity, particularly with countries who have no direct interest in our minerals. To achieve this, it means you have to have a known contact defense structure or defense pact, as it were. You also have to approach the terrorism, the approach to tackling these people using technology. The direct contact approach will fail, but to sustain and defend your sovereignty and territorial integrity, you need the people's army, sustaining, training, and equipping our people within the borderlines while using satellite infrared spectroscopy to look at our satellite space so that that photogrammetry that will come therefrom can be used to analyze and use a direct technology, digital drone approach to be able to do a massive attack. If you don't approach it with this sophisticated technology and with intelligence gathering using international collaborations, you will definitely be struggling by pumping in more money, and the money will only make the problem bigger. On the economy is almost reduced to a situation where I can imagine that the insecurity has put too much pressure. And so a situation where the country sits back and look at every single guerrilla attack as a failure of government without understanding the extensive international dimension and nexus, it will be doing ourselves no good. We must come together as a nation to deal with the issues of security that have dovetailed into the economic crisis that we find ourselves as a world and as a continent and as a country. How do you tackle this? Unemployment is at the key, is the primordial basis for this crisis at the domestic level, at the immediate level. And to address the issue of the economy of this nation, I give you a typical example. If Nigeria decides today to invest massively on the Trans-Saharan pipeline, it will cost us about 13 billion naira to do a pipeline from here to Algeria. And that can deliver gas to Europe, where Russia is accountable for 40% of the gas delivery. If Nigeria takes over the delivery of that gas and focus heavily on delivery of gas through Algeria and Morocco to serve Europe, we'll be bringing in, netting in between 15 to 25 billion dollars per annum. That will add to the strength of the dollar input into this country. In addition to this, and above all, we must realize that isolationism, which is the Afronism theory that I am proposing, that Nigeria must isolate herself and trade with herself. Africans must also think so. The weakness of our dollar, of our local currency, is because we are too dependent on inputs, foreign inputs. Isolationism is a theory that says you only isolate yourself. I say, look, anything Nigeria is not producing, we're not going to consume.
Mr. Governor, you've said so much. Forgive me if I, step in at this point. Let me take you back because you've said so many things. I mean, it's almost unnecessary to ask you how you fix economy, security, and all of that. But let me take you back to what you said about the late Tanzanian President Magufuli. Are you insinuating that he was killed because the belief in many quarters is that, it could be a fallout of COVID? And that actually brings me to your handling of the whole COVID situation in the early days of the outbreak. So many people were alarmed that you actually took a stand that portrayed that COVID was more or less a scam. I mean, you didn't really take it seriously, but it has killed about 6 million people so far. If you were president of Nigeria and a similar outbreak occurred globally, how exactly are you going to approach it? Because many expect that, you put forward that position of leadership. The economy, security, or in any area.
Well, essentially speaking, we're on a very serious issue, the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The Tanzanian president has a speculative debt that is subject to askance. Most schools of thought believe that it is his resistance and his condemnation, his absolute refusal that there is no COVID-19 and such virus does not exist, and refused to take any step. And so they needed to teach him a lesson. But please, I'm a professor of microbiology. I do not intend to come here to cross-examine my proficiency, my capacity, and blend my intellect with the global politics. It's a subject for another day. But please, let's focus on this country and how to get the country right. And I think that's the basis for today's interview.
Mr. Governor, if I may, follow on this. Exactly what are your chances against bigwigs in the APC, people like Bola Tinubu and all the rest of them? And again, the general feeling is that the presidency should go to the southeast in 2023. You are from the south of the country. What are your thoughts on that? What's your take?
I agree with the concerns so expressed. I believe that Senator Tinubu has done a lot, has contributed immensely, bringing this party, APC, into leadership and the villa. And so he has moral credentials to seek to run as president of this country. I also agree that to be able to put an end to the ghost of the civil war, it is only natural that if all the zones, all the major zones have produced the president, it is natural that the Southeast should be given a chance. And that's why my availability to contest comes as a civilized approach to say, just in case the political structure and the family ultimately does its calculation and it fits into South-South, I'll be available. I'll be available on the basis of my experiential credentials made available given what I have delivered in Cross River State. Number two, I also think that the South-South had not completed her own term, her 8 years term. And therefore, that leaves us with the opportunity to seek to complete our term. And also, naturally, there's so much that is being generated and delivered to Nigeria as a state. So even if we sought to run from the South-South, we do so with a clear understanding that we're also a major contributor to the economy of this nation, and also we are politically strong. We have contributed to the success and stability, and we have, in the last few years, remained very committed to the oneness and the indivisibility of this country. And so, in a political setting, so many factors other than mere morality becomes the basis for decision making. So when the leadership of APC sits to begin to accentuate and crystallize the basis for zoning, it will be a subject that all of us who fall into the leadership of the party will sit down, and of course, everybody will advocate and pontificate on the basis for the decision. If the final decision tilts in favor of the South-South, I make myself tall and available. And I can assure you, even though people think that people should go out there to run, I believe that democracy that has a reflection of the customization of our culture should allow for a negotiation within the family side. The general election is where the core election is. Everything within APC, as it were, is still a family talk. And so if we find out that Nigeria is in a situation where the discussion is not who is right, who has made such a major contribution, but who has the capacity, experience, and all that it takes to be able to deliver Nigeria out of the woods, let me tell you, the whole world looks up to Nigeria, particularly for the emancipation and the identity, integrity, character, honor, value of the black man. And so the success of Nigeria tells the success of about 1.3 billion black people living in Africa as a continent. It is important that capacity remains also one of the critical forces beyond the factors, the mundane factors and the political considerations for zoning. And that's why I'm capably available and ready to offer what I've got to offer to this country. I was born into a poor family, extremely poor, downright poor. I conquered poverty in my personal life, my private life, my corporate and business world, rose to a very successful billionaire before coming into politics. And so in politics, I've risen from a senator to become governor. If I have conquered all my challenges in my private life from such a poor background, I think I've got the capacity, the mind power, and that's why I speak with so much passion. I speak with so much pain, because I understand and I know my hands are dying to just be on the plow to make a difference. And that's all I seek. And I seek that with the fear of God, that truly, I can make this change. But again, I'm not desperate about it. And that's why I'm very, very classic in the choice of my words, to ensure that I don't offend any interest, just in case it doesn't tilt in my favor. It's God's wish.
Well, that's a good place to leave it, Mr. Governor. Thank you so much for being on the news tonight with us.